You have carried enough for today. Not everything you carried was visible. Some of it may have been hidden in the small pauses between your words, in the way your shoulders stayed lifted when they wanted to fall, in the quiet pressure behind your eyes after another long day of thinking, answering, deciding, waiting, hoping, and trying to be steady for more people than yourself. So tonight, before any story begins, before any ancient road opens beneath the stars, before any lamp is lit in a small room near the sea, you are invited to set the weight down. You do not have to explain it. You do not have to make it sound reasonable. You do not have to turn your weariness into a lesson. You can simply let it be what it is, and let your body remember that rest is not a reward for solving everything. Rest is older than worry. Rest is older than hurry. Rest has been waiting beneath the noise, quiet and patient, like a shore waiting beneath the tide. Let your breath come in slowly. Let it leave slowly. Let the room around you become simple again. There is the place where you are lying or sitting. There is the darkness, or the soft light, or the familiar shape of the ceiling above you. There is the quiet sound of this voice. There is the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. And for now, that is enough. Nothing more is required. Tonight, we will drift through an old sacred landscape. Not as students trying to memorize, not as scholars trying to argue, not as travelers rushing to arrive, but as tired souls walking slowly through lamplight. Water, bread, dust, gardens, whispered questions, and the calm presence of one who sees people exactly where they are. This will not be a sharp retelling. It will not pull you upright with sudden turns. It will move like evening water. It will return often to safety. It will give your mind something gentle to follow, and then, when you are ready, something gentle to release. So if you lose the thread, that is perfectly fine. If you drift away and return later, that is fine too. The story will keep moving softly, like a river that does not mind whether you watch every ripple. And if you fall asleep before the first road reaches the hills, then the story has done its work. For now, imagine the world before it is crowded with names. Imagine stillness before the first market opens, before sandals move through dust, before a fisherman pulls a net from the lake, before a woman lowers her jar into a deep well, before a teacher comes by night with questions folded carefully inside him. Imagine the beginning as quiet, not empty in a frightening way, but full in a way too soft for noise. A quiet before speech, a quiet before striving, a quiet where presence already is, and from that quiet, something like a word begins to shine. Not a word thrown like a command, not a word carved like stone, but a living word, warm with breath, bright with meaning, moving through the silence without disturbing it. The word is close to the source of all things, and the word carries the source within it. The word is not simply sound, it is life becoming near. It is light, finding a way to be seen. It is the first soft glow at the edge of a room that has been dark for a long time. And the light does not fight the darkness in the way anxious minds imagine fighting. It does not shout, it does not panic, it simply shines. The darkness cannot swallow it, because the light is not fragile. It is gentle, but it is not weak. It is quiet, but it is not absent. It is steady in the way dawn is steady, arriving whether the world feels ready or not. And you can rest with that image for a moment, a small light, a deep darkness, a darkness that cannot overcome the light. You do not have to turn that into doctrine. You do not have to hold it tightly. You can let it rest beside you, like a candle on a table, enough to soften the room, enough to make the edges less severe. Somewhere in the ancient hills, a man stands near water and speaks of another who is coming. He is not the light himself, he is only a witness to it. And there is something deeply restful in that. Not everyone has to be the flame, not everyone has to carry the whole meaning. Some are called only to point gently, to say, look, there is something beyond me, something kinder, something greater, something already near. He stands near the river, where people come with dusty feet and restless hearts. The water moves as it always has, over stone, around reed, under the open sky. People step down into it carrying stories no one else fully knows. They step out again with wet robes, blinking in the sun, perhaps not entirely changed, but at least a little more awake to the possibility that mercy can meet them. And then one day, the one he has been pointing toward appears in the ordinary movement of the day. No thunder needs to break the sky. No trumpet needs to split the air. He is simply there, walking toward the river, and the witness recognizes him. The story begins not with spectacle, but with recognition. "Look," says the quiet heart of the scene, "there is the one who carries what others cannot carry. There is the one whose presence gathers the scattered pieces of human longing. There is the one who comes without noise, and yet everything begins to rearrange around him. You are safe here. Let your breathing remain slow. Let the story be light. Not wait. There is no need to chase every name or every place. There is only the river, the warm air, the footsteps, and the sense that something holy can enter an ordinary day without breaking it." The first followers do not come with perfect understanding. They come with curiosity. They hear someone speak, and they begin to walk behind Jesus at a distance. Perhaps unsure what to say, perhaps wondering whether they are being foolish, perhaps feeling the strange pull that begins when the heart recognizes a doorway before the mind knows what room lies beyond it. Jesus turns and asks them what they are seeking. It is a simple question, but not a shallow one. What are you seeking? Not what can you prove, not what title can you give me, not what answer have you prepared, only this: what are you seeking? And perhaps that question can drift gently toward you as well, without pressure. Not so you must answer it tonight, not so you must become more awake. Only so the question can be held tenderly in the dark. What are you seeking when you come to rest? Peace, perhaps, relief, a place to stop pretending you are less tired than you are. A voice that does not demand, a light that does not expose you harshly, but helps you see that you are not alone. The followers ask where he is staying, and he does not give them a lecture. He gives them an invitation. Come and see. So simple, so soft. Come and see, not come and solve everything, not come and master every mystery. Come and see. And they go with him into an afternoon that the memory of the story does not forget. The hour is remembered because some meetings mark time without making it loud. A day can turn quietly around one conversation. A life can begin to open because someone said, "Come and see." Soon, one person tells another. A brother finds a brother. A friend finds a friend. Names begin to gather, not like a crowd pressing in, but like small lamps being lit one by one along a road. Andrew, Simon, Philip, Nathaniel. Each one comes with his own temperament, his own doubts, his own quick judgments, his own hope. One asks whether anything good can come from a small and overlooked place. And again, the answer is not an argument. Come and see how gentle that phrase is. It leaves room. It does not force belief. It opens a path. And when Nathaniel approaches, he is seen before he explains himself. He is known before he offers a polished version of his life. There is comfort in that, though it can feel surprising. To be truly seen, not as a performance, not as a problem, but as a person sitting under the quiet shade of a tree, known in a moment of stillness, remembered in the secret places of the day. You can rest with that too. There may be parts of your day no one noticed. Small efforts, private aches, the sentence you did not say, the kindness you gave when you had little energy left. The anxiety you carried quietly, the hope you almost set down. In this story, the Holy Presence sees beneath the surface, and the seeing does not become harsh. It becomes invitation. It becomes belonging. It becomes a promise that greater things can unfold, though they may unfold slowly, and not tonight, all at once. So let the first part of the road become soft behind you. A river, a witness, a question, an invitation. Come and see. And now the story moves. Not urgently, but like evening, moving toward lamplight, toward a village celebration where water jars wait in the background, ordinary and silent. There is a wedding in Cana. Imagine it softly, not as a crowded scene of noise, but as a warm village evening where families have gathered under a sky slowly deepening from gold into blue. The air is filled with low conversation, sandals brushing earth, the rustle of woven cloth, the scent of bread, fruit, oil, and dust warmed by the day. A wedding in a small place is never only the joining of two people. It is the whole village remembering hope. It is neighbors leaning close. It is the elderly watching with tired, shining eyes. It is children drifting between tables. It is the relief of music after labor, laughter after worry, food after waiting. Jesus is there with his mother and his new companions, not on a platform, not distant from the ordinary joy, there, among cups, servants, relatives, and the fragile dignity of a family trying to honor its guests. Then a small crisis unfolds. The wine runs low in another kind of story. This could become embarrassment, shame, frantic whispering, the kind of social wound people remember too long. But here, the moment is held quietly. Mary notices. She brings the need to Jesus with few words. She does not explain every consequence. She simply names the lack. They have no more wine. There is a deep sleep story tenderness in that sentence when it is heard gently. A human need is named. Something has run out, not because anyone is evil, not because anyone failed beyond repair, simply because human celebrations are fragile and supplies run low, and even joyful rooms can feel the edge of insufficiency. Maybe there are places in you that feel like that tonight. Something has run low. Patience, hope, focus, strength, the ability to keep smiling. You do not need to be ashamed of that. The story does not shame the empty jar. It simply notices it. Nearby stand stone jars, heavy and plain, used for washing. They were not made for wonder. They were made for routine, for the familiar gestures of cleansing, filling, pouring, emptying. Their purpose was practical. Their presence was almost invisible, and that is where the sign begins, not in the center of the room, not in the obvious place. In the background, with servants, with water, with ordinary stone, fill the jars. Jesus tells them, so they fill them, not halfway, not with anxious calculation, to the brim, and in the quiet obedience of that simple task, water becomes something richer than anyone expected. The master of the feast tastes it and is surprised by abundance arriving late. The good has not been spent too early. The best has not disappeared. Something generous has been kept, hidden, waiting for the moment when people thought there was nothing left. Let that be soft inside you. The ordinary can still become enough. The background can still hold a miracle. What has run low in you is not the end of the story. And you do not have to make the water change by staring at it. You can simply rest. The servants knew where it came from. The guests did not. Some of the deepest mercies in life are like that. Not everyone sees the hidden filling. Not everyone knows how close the empty place came to embarrassment. Not everyone hears the quiet instruction that saved the evening from shame. But the story knows, and sometimes it is enough that the story knows. Now breathe again, slowly in, slowly out. You are safe. The wedding fades into a few days by the lake, into roads between villages, into the slow movement of a life beginning to gather meaning around itself. There are festivals and courts and public places where tension rises, but tonight we do not need to dwell in the tension. We move through it softly, as one might pass through a room where voices were once loud, noticing only that even there, beneath misunderstanding, the deeper current is still moving. Jesus enters places where people have turned devotion into transaction, and he refuses to let the house of prayer become only a marketplace. Yet even this moment, which in waking hours can feel sharp, can soften when heard at night. It is the clearing of clutter from a sacred room. It is the insistence that some spaces are meant for more than noise. Some inner rooms are not meant to be filled with bargaining, comparison, and restless exchange. Your mind has such rooms too, and perhaps tonight, without force, without anger, some of the tables inside can be turned back into stillness. Not everything that occupies your attention belongs there. Not every thought needs a stall in the temple. Some can be let out gently. Some can be released. Some can wait beyond the doorway until morning. The story continues, and many people see signs and wonder who this teacher is. But he is not dazzled by quick belief or sudden applause. He knows what is in people. He knows how easily excitement rises and falls. He knows the human heart, not with contempt, but with deep understanding. That too can be restful. You are not mysterious to the one who made breath. You do not have to assemble yourself into something impressive before being known. You can be weary, uneven, grateful, distracted, faithful, doubtful, tender, and afraid, all within the same quiet hour. And still the night can hold you. And now, when the lamps are lower and the public streets have grown calmer, a man comes by night. Nicodemus comes carefully. He is educated, respected, cautious. A man used to weighing words. A man who knows the structures of religion, the weight of reputation, the danger of asking too openly. So he comes when the city is dim, when the heat of the day has lifted, when voices have thinned, when a question can move through shadow without being seen by everyone. There is something very human in coming by night. Many of our truest questions come by night. They come when the day has stopped giving us tasks to hide behind. They come when the room is quiet and the body wants sleep. But the mind brings one more question to the door. Nicodemus begins with what he knows, or thinks he knows. He recognizes that Jesus carries something from God, because the signs cannot be easily dismissed. But Jesus does not merely confirm his careful statement. He opens a deeper mystery. To see the kingdom, a person must be born from above. Nicodemus does what tired minds often do when mystery appears. He tries to make it literal. He tries to fit the spiritual wind into a small box of explanation. How can this happen? How can an old life begin again? How can someone already formed become new? The answer comes not as a diagram, but as wind. The wind moves where it will. You hear it, you feel its passing, but you do not control its origin or destination. So it is with the life of the Spirit. Let that image do less work and more soothing. Wind at night, a quiet rooftop, a teacher listening, a mystery too large to hold tightly. You do not need to understand renewal in order to receive rest. You do not need to map the wind. You can feel it touch your face and let it pass. The conversation moves toward love, not as sentiment, but as the great hidden movement beneath everything. The world is not approached only with condemnation. It is approached with giving, with rescue, with light. The light comes, and some turn away because light can reveal. But those who move toward truth discover that the light is not there to humiliate them. It is there to make things whole, and maybe this is enough for tonight. The light does not come to crush you. The light comes to guide you home. You are safe. Let your hands soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let whatever question came by night sit beside Nicodemus for a while. Under the dark sky, listening to the wind. No answer has to be forced before morning. The story will keep moving. And the road moves now through Samaria, through heat and dust, toward a well at noon, where another person will be seen in the bright loneliness of day. Jesus sits beside Jacob's well, tired from the journey. That detail is worth keeping. Tired from the journey, the one who carries living water also knows the weight of walking under the sun. He sits because bodies sit when they are tired. He rests because the road has been long. The sacred does not hover above human weariness. It enters it, sits beside it, and waits by a well. The disciples have gone into town. The day is high, the light is bright. The hour is not the usual one for gathering water. And a Samaritan woman comes alone with her jar. The sound of the rope, the stone lip of the well, the dry air, the long history between peoples. who do not easily trust one another. And then a request, give me a drink, not a sermon, not a judgment. A request, the conversation begins with thirst. How tender that is, so many conversations in the soul begin there, though we name the thirst in different ways. We call it loneliness, we call it restlessness, we call it ambition, we call it disappointment, we call it being busy, we call it needing one more thing before we can be peaceful. But beneath many names there is thirst. The woman is surprised that he speaks to her at all. Boundaries existed around her, historical, social, religious, personal. Yet Jesus speaks across them without making a spectacle of the crossing. He does not treat her as an example. He treats her as a person. He speaks of living water, water not hauled repeatedly under the noon sun, water not limited by the depth of a well or the strength of tired arms. Water that becomes a spring within. She asks for it before she understands it, which is often how grace begins. We ask for what we cannot yet fully imagine. We say yes to relief before we know how deep the relief might go. Then the conversation touches the painful places of her life. Not brutally, not for public shame. There is truth, but not cruelty. There is seeing, but not exposure for its own sake. She is known, and still the conversation continues. That is the soft reveal of this moment. Being known does not end the invitation. Being known is where the deeper invitation begins. She speaks of worship, of mountains, of the old question of the proper place. Jesus answers by opening the horizon beyond place alone. A time is coming, and has already begun, when worship will not be confined to one mountain or one city, but will rise in spirit and truth. The woman mentions the promised one, the one who will explain everything. And Jesus, who has been careful in many public places, speaks plainly to her. The one you are speaking with is he, quietly, beside a well, to a woman who came alone in the heat of the day. He reveals what others have debated in crowded rooms. This is how the story keeps surprising us softly. The holy often arrives where the world expected little. A background jar, a night question, a noon well, a lonely person with a difficult past. The woman leaves her water jar behind. Do not rush past that image. She came carrying one kind of need, and she leaves moving toward the town with another kind of fullness. The jar remains near the well, silent, unnecessary for a moment. Her voice goes where her shame had once kept her separated. She invites others to come and see. Again, that gentle phrase, come and see. Not everything is explained, not everything is settled, but something has happened, and it is enough to open a path. The people come out from the town. They ask Jesus to stay. He stays 2 days. Slowly, belief moves from someone else's testimony into their own encounter. We have heard for ourselves. What a peaceful movement. From rumor to nearness, from distance to listening, from thirst to spring, you can rest now in that movement. Whatever thirst you brought into this night does not need to be solved by effort alone. Let the well be deep, let the water be cool, let the jar rest on the ground. Let the noon heat fade, you are safe. The story moves again, and the landscape widens into villages, roads, rooms of illness, porches where the waiting have waited too long, hillsides where hungry crowds gather, and waters that turn rough under evening wind. A royal official comes with fear for his child. His need is urgent, and urgency can feel sharp, so we will hold it gently. A parent walks the road because love has made him desperate. He asks for healing. He wants Jesus to come before the child dies, but Jesus gives him a word instead of a visible escort. Go, your son lives. The man must walk home between promise and proof. That road is familiar to many hearts, the road between what has been spoken and what has been seen. The road where nothing appears different yet, but hope has been placed in your hands like a small lamp. He goes, and while he is still on the way, servants meet him with news that the child is well. The hour of healing matches the hour of the word. The story does not ask us to become excited here. It invites us to rest in the quiet mystery that a word can travel where feet have not yet arrived. Yet, a little later, near a pool in Jerusalem, there is a man who has been unwell for many years. The place is crowded with waiting. Waiting can become its own weather. People wait with hope, then habit, then resignation. They know the shape of the columns, the sound of footsteps, the old disappointment of someone else reaching the water first. Jesus sees the man again. The seeing comes first, not the man's success, not his explanation, not his strength. Jesus sees him lying there and knows it has been a long time. Do you want to be made well? The question is simple, but after long suffering, even simple questions can open deep rooms. The man answers with his limitation. He has no one to help him. Others get ahead. The old pattern repeats. Then Jesus gives a command that becomes a doorway. Rise, take up your mat, walk. The mat is important. It is the sign of the place where he had been stuck. He does not leave it as if his past never existed. He carries it. But now he carries what once carried him. Let that be soft. Healing does not always mean pretending the old mat was never there. Sometimes it means standing up, gently, and finding that what held you down can now be held in your own hands. Because this happens on a Sabbath, argument begins around it. People debate the rule, while a man learns the feel of walking. This is one of the recurring tensions of the story. Life arrives, and some people become troubled because it did not arrive according to their preferred schedule. But for sleep, we do not need to sharpen that tension. We let it pass like a distant sound beyond a closed door. The calmer truth remains. Mercy does not forget the one who has waited. You are safe. You do not have to rise tonight. You do not have to carry every mat. You can simply rest and know that long waiting is seen. The story moves toward a hillside where many people have followed Jesus because they have seen signs of healing. The Passover is near. The grass is plentiful. The people sit down. Let the scene become spacious. A hillside near the Sea of Galilee. Green grass under tired bodies. Children leaning against parents. The lake shining below. The late-day air moving over thousands of people who are hungry and far from home. Jesus asks where bread can be bought for them, though he already knows what he will do. Philip calculates impossibility. Andrew notices a boy with a small offering, barley loaves and fish. Not enough by any reasonable measure. Not enough. That phrase returns often in human life. Not enough time. Not enough strength. Not enough faith. Not enough clarity. Not enough bread for the crowd. But Jesus takes the smallness, gives thanks, and distributes it. The story does not dwell on mechanics. It dwells on abundance. People eat. They are satisfied. Fragments are gathered so nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. Hold that softly. The fragments matter. The pieces left after everyone has taken what they need are not dismissed. They are gathered carefully, in a sleepy way. That image can become deeply comforting. The scattered pieces of your day, the half-finished thoughts, the little remains of energy, the crumbs of courage, the small acts no one counted. None of it has to be wasted. Gather the fragments, let nothing be lost. And after the crowd sees the sign, they want to make him a king by force. They want to turn fullness into control, but Jesus withdraws to the mountain alone. He does not let the crowd's excitement define him. He returns to solitude. Even abundance needs quiet afterward. Even miracles can be followed by retreat. You are allowed to withdraw from what is too loud. You are allowed to let the hillside empty. You are allowed to rest after giving. Evening comes. The disciples cross the lake. The water grows rough. The wind rises. Darkness settles over the surface. They row and strain, and Jesus comes toward them over the water. They are afraid, but he says, "It is I, do not be afraid." Let that sentence be enough. Do not be afraid, not because the water never moves, not because night never comes, but because presence can come across the very surface that frightened you. They receive him into the boat, and the journey reaches the shore. So breathe, You are safe. The hillside is quiet now. The baskets are gathered. The boat has reached the shore. The wind can move outside the story, but it does not need to move inside your body anymore. The next day, people search for Jesus because they have eaten and want more bread. He speaks to them of food that does not spoil, of deeper hunger, of bread from heaven, of life that sustains beyond the body's daily need. This part of the story becomes more mysterious, and because it becomes mysterious, we will let it become more spacious rather than more intense. Bread, hunger, life, receiving, remaining. These are not ideas to wrestle with at midnight. They are images to rest beside. The bread of life is a way of saying that the soul is not meant to live on effort alone. There is a nourishment deeper than achievement. There is a giving that comes before deserving. There is a table that does not vanish just because you feel empty. Some people find the teaching difficult and turn back. Not every listener remains. Not every crowd becomes companionship. Jesus asks the 12 whether they also want to leave. Peter answers with the simplicity of someone who does not understand everything, but knows where life has been found. Where else would we go? You have the words of life. That is enough for tonight too. You do not need to understand every hard saying. You do not need to stay awake until mystery becomes simple. You can let the words of life be near you without solving them. You can let them become like bread placed on a table in a quiet room. Near, available, enough. Now the story moves into festivals and public courts, where whispers gather like leaves in a corner. Some say he is good, others say he misleads, some are afraid to speak, some want certainty, some think they know where truth can and cannot come from. These are wakeful tensions, so we let them soften. Imagine instead the festival lights, the movement of people through Jerusalem, the sound of water being poured, the brightness of lamps, the long memory of wilderness shelters, of people who once lived under temporary roofs and learned that life is always more dependent than it pretends. On the last great day of the feast, Jesus speaks of thirst again. If anyone is thirsty, come. The invitation has grown from the well to the crowd, but it remains the same in its deep tenderness. If anyone is thirsty, not if anyone is impressive, not if anyone has achieved spiritual calm. If anyone is thirsty, come. The story returns to water because the soul understands water before it understands argument. Rivers of living water flow within the person, a spring not exhausted by the long walk. People are divided about him, but division does not erase the invitation. The thirsty are still invited. You are safe. Let the festival noise fade. Let the lamps blur. Let the water pour and become the sound of rest. In the morning, Jesus appears again in the temple courts. A woman is brought before him by those who want to trap him. The scene could become harsh, and so we will walk through it with great gentleness. The woman stands exposed before a crowd, while others use her life as a test. Jesus bends down and writes on the ground. There is mercy even in the delay. He does not answer their urgency with urgency. He lowers himself toward the dust. The dust receives the motion of his finger. The crowd waits when he speaks. He turns the weight of judgment back toward those holding stones. Let the one without sin cast first, and he bends again. One by one, they leave. The older first, perhaps because years teach the memory of one's own need for mercy. At last, only Jesus and the woman remain. No one condemns her. Neither do I condemn you. Go and leave the old life for sleep. Let the stones be set down very slowly. One stone, then another, then another. The sound of accusation leaving the room. The sound of dust settling. The sound of a person receiving space to live. This is not cheap softness. It is mercy, strong enough to stop the hand, and truth gentle enough to give a future. You can rest there. There may be accusations in your own mind, stones gathered in thought, old sentences waiting to be thrown at yourself before sleep. Let them be set down. One by one, you do not need to hold a stone against your own soul tonight. The story continues with light. I am the light of the world. Jesus says, whoever follows will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Again the light returns, the first light of the beginning, the light at the river, the light in hidden rooms, the light at noon beside a well, the light in a court where stones are lowered, not a light that startles you awake, but a lamp for walking, a light low enough for tired eyes, a light steady enough for uncertain steps. Arguments rise again, as they often do around truth. Questions of testimony, origin, freedom, ancestry, and belief fill the air. But inside the many words, one simple promise stands quietly. The truth will set you free. Freedom here is not the restless freedom of having no limits. It is the deeper release of no longer being ruled by what enslaves the soul. No longer needing the dark to hide, no longer needing the old scripts to define you, no longer needing to prove yourself by resisting mercy. If the sun sets you free, you are free indeed. Do not force the words, let them be a blanket. Free indeed. Free enough to breathe, free enough to stop rehearsing, free enough to sleep. The conflict grows for those in the story, but for you, listening now, the energy can soften. We are not here to argue beside the temple stones. We are passing through at night, gathering only what brings rest. Light, mercy, freedom, the stones set down, the path lit softly ahead. A man blind from birth sits along the way. The disciples ask why he was born this way, wanting a cause, a fault, a reason they can name. Human beings often search for blame when faced with suffering. It can feel safer to categorize pain than to behold it. But Jesus refuses to turn the man into an answer to an accusation. This is not a stage for blame. It will become a place where the work of God is seen. He makes mud with the earth and touches the man's eyes. Dust and breath, clay and tenderness, the materials of creation appearing again in a small act beside the road. The man is sent to wash. He goes, he washes, he returns seeing. Imagine the first light entering eyes that had never known light before. Not too bright, let it be soft, a shape, a shadow, a shimmer of water, the outline of a hand, the sky, faces, the world arriving gently. Though the story around him soon becomes complicated by questions and investigation. People debate his identity. Is he the same man? He looks like him. It is him. Ask his parents. Ask him again. Explain it. Repeat it. Defend it. Account for the miracle in terms we approve. The healed man keeps returning to the one thing he knows. I was blind, and now I see. There is a restful clarity in that. Not every grace can be explained to everyone who demands an explanation. Sometimes testimony is simple. I was one way. Now something has changed. I could not see. Now I see. Eventually, the man is cast out by those who cannot receive his joy without controlling it. Jesus finds him. That matters. When others push him out, Jesus finds him. The story does not leave the newly seeing man alone outside the gate. The same presence that opened his eyes comes to meet him again. Do you believe? Who is he, sir? You have seen him. He is speaking with you. And the man worships. You are safe. If any part of you feels outside, unwelcome, misunderstood, unable to explain the change you long for, let this scene rest beside you. The one who gives sight also finds the one who has been pushed away. You do not have to defend your whole life tonight. You can simply let the mud be washed away. Let the water cool your eyes. Let the first soft shape of morning come. Then Jesus speaks of sheep and a shepherd. This is one of the gentlest images in the story when heard before sleep. A sheepfold in the quiet dark, a gate, a shepherd who knows each one by name. The animals know the voice that belongs to safety. They do not need to understand every map of the hills. They do not need to know where every pasture begins. They listen for the voice they trust, and when that voice calls, they follow. I am the gate, Jesus says. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd does not run when danger comes. He does not abandon the flock because they are inconvenient. He knows his own, and his own know him. Let the image become very slow, evening over the hills, the folding closed, the wind quieting, the sheep settling in soft groups. The shepherd at the opening, no one forgotten, no one nameless, no one needing to keep watch over the whole night alone. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, they follow me. No one will snatch them from my hand. This is a return to safety. Let it settle deeply. No one will snatch them. No one will snatch you from the hand that holds you. You can stop keeping guard for a little while. You can lie down in the pasture of the story. You can let the shepherd stay awake. Beyond this, there are more debates, more stones lifted and not thrown, more questions of identity, more resistance from those who'd hear and do not understand. But the image of the shepherd is stronger than the noise. The voice is the thread. Follow the voice, not the argument, not the fear, the voice. And the voice leads now toward a house of grief in Bethany, where two sisters wait and a brother lies beyond the reach of ordinary help. Bethany is close to Jerusalem, but in the story it feels like its own small world. A home where Jesus is loved, where Martha serves, Mary listens, Lazarus belongs, and the rooms hold the warmth of friendship. Then illness comes, a message is sent, the one you love is sick. That sentence is heavy, but we will carry it gently. Love and sickness sit close together in human life. To love someone is to become vulnerable to their pain. To receive such a message is to feel time change shape. Jesus does not come at once, and this delay is one of the mysteries that can trouble waking minds. But in a sleep story, we do not force the mystery open. We let it remain veiled. We notice only that delay is not absence, though it can feel like absence to those who wait. By the time Jesus arrives, Lazarus has died. Martha goes out to meet him. Her words hold grief and faith together, not neatly, but honestly. If you had been here, my brother would not have died. Yet even now, those two words are small and strong. Even now, after the expected time has passed, even now, when the house has grown quiet, even now, when grief has already entered, Jesus speaks to her of resurrection and life, not as an abstract doctrine alone, but as presence standing before her on the road. Mary comes too, weeping. Others weep with her, and Jesus is deeply moved. Then the shortest, softest window opens into his heart. He weeps. Let that be tender. The one who will call life from the tomb first stands among tears. He does not hurry past grief to prove a point. He enters it. He lets sorrow be sorrow. This matters for sleep, because many tired people carry unnamed grief into bed. Not always dramatic grief. Sometimes it is the grief of change, the grief of exhaustion, the grief of distance, the grief of not being who you hoped you would be by now. The grief of missing someone, the grief of time moving too quickly. The story does not scold tears, it makes room for them at the tomb. Jesus calls Lazarus by name, "Come out," and the one who was bound comes out, still wrapped in grave cloths. Others are told to unbind him and let him go. Even new life may need unwrapping. Even restoration may need gentle hands nearby. A person can come forth and still need help being freed from what clings. Let the scene soften now, the stone moved, the voice calling, the wrapped figure emerging, the hands loosening cloth, the family breathing again. Not every tomb in life opens on our schedule, and we must be honest about that. But in this story, the voice of life is stronger than the sealed place. And tonight, you do not need to apply that to everything. You can simply rest in the sound of your name being known. You are safe. Let the house of Bethany become quiet again. Let the weeping slow. Let the linen fall away. Let the night air into the room. Not long after, there is a dinner in Bethany. Lazarus is there at the table. Martha serves. Mary brings costly perfume and anoints Jesus' feet, wiping them with her hair. The house fills with fragrance. This is a beautiful image for the middle of the night. A table, a restored friend, hands serving, a woman pouring out what is precious, the fragrance moving through the whole house. Some complain about waste, as practical minds sometimes do when love becomes extravagant. But Jesus receives the act as meaningful. Not everything precious can be measured by utility. Some gifts are fragrant because they are not calculated. There are moments when love fills the house, and the correct response is not to count the cost too loudly. Let the fragrance drift: nard, oil, wood, bread, lamp smoke, evening air. A home that has known grief now holds a scent that will be remembered. The next movement of the story goes toward Jerusalem, where palm branches wave and crowds speak with hope. Not yet understanding the shape of the path ahead, Jesus enters not on a war horse, but in humility, fulfilling older hopes in a way many cannot fully read. For sleep, we pass through this gently, the sound of branches, the dust of the road, the city rising ahead, the feeling that people can welcome truth and still misunderstand it. Some Greeks wish to see Jesus. The desire to see him spreads beyond one people, one village, one familiar circle. The hour deepens. He speaks of a grain of wheat falling into the earth and bearing much fruit. The image is quiet and earthy, a seed in dark soil, not lost. Hidden, softening, opening in a place no eye can see. Some transformations look like burial before they look like fruit. Some nights feel like nothing is happening, but the seed is not dead in the way fear imagines. It is held in the dark, becoming what it could not become in the open air. You can rest with that. Not every hidden season is wasted. Not every silence is empty. The seed is held, the soil is dark, the fruit is not rushed. As the public ministry draws inward, the story enters a room where supper is prepared. The hour is intimate now. The crowds are outside. The debates are outside. Inside, there is a table, a basin, water, a towel, and the quiet knowledge that love is about to kneel. Jesus rises from the meal, lays aside his outer garment, wraps a towel around himself, pours water into a basin, and begins to wash the feet of his disciples. Feet that have walked dusty roads, feet that have followed him perfectly, feet that will soon scatter, feet belonging to men who still do not fully understand him. He washes them, slowly, one by one. The water touches skin, the towel dries. The room grows still. Peter resists because receiving can be harder than serving. He does not want his teacher lowered before him, but Jesus teaches him that someone forms of love must be received before they can be understood. Let this image be very gentle for your body. A basin of water, a towel, dust loosened, no rush, no shame. The places that carried you through the day are washed. The tired feet, the ordinary evidence of having walked through a difficult world. Nothing is mocked, nothing is despised. The dust is simply washed away. He gives them a new command, to love one another as he has loved them. Not love as performance, not love as sentiment alone. Love that kneels, serves, washes, stays, gives, and makes room. The room is tender, but shadows are present too. Betrayal is near. Denial is near. The story does not pretend the table is untouched by sorrow. Yet even here, the central movement is love. Having loved his own, he loves them to the end. You are safe. Let the basin stay near you. Let the water be warm. Let the towel be soft. Let the dust of the day be lifted from your thoughts. You do not have to carry it into sleep. In that same quiet movement, Jesus speaks words of comfort that have carried tired hearts for centuries. Do not let your heart be troubled. Trust. There is room. A place is prepared. The way is not a map you must master alone. The way is found in him. Do not let your heart be troubled. That sentence is not a scolding. It is a hand placed gently over trembling. Do not let your heart be troubled. Not because there is no sorrow in the world, not because the disciples understand what is coming, but because they are not being abandoned. He speaks of peace, not as the world gives. The world often gives peace only when circumstances are controlled, when outcomes are clear, when every door is locked and every question answered. But this peace is different. It can enter the room before everything is resolved. It can remain when the lamp is low. It can breathe under the ribs when the mind does not know what to do next. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled. Let it not be afraid. There is no need to analyze this now. Let it repeat like a lullaby. Peace I leave. Peace I give. Do not be afraid. He speaks also of a vine and branches. Another gentle image. A vine in quiet soil. Branches receiving life by remaining. Fruit forming not by anxious effort, but by connection. Remain. That is the word. Remain in love. Remain as a branch remains in the vine, not straining to invent sap, not panicking itself into growth, but receiving what flows from the root. This is restful because so much of modern weariness comes from trying to produce fruit without receiving life, trying to be patient without being nourished, trying to be kind while empty, trying to be faithful while severed from quiet. The vine does not ask the branch to become the root. The branch remains, and life flows. So for this moment, remain. Remain in the quiet. Remain in the breath. Remain under the gentle words. Nothing more. Jesus speaks of sorrow turning to joy, of asking, receiving, being loved by the Father, and not being alone even when others scatter. These words gather like blankets around the room. They do not remove the coming night, but they prepare hearts to pass through it. Then he prays. The story becomes prayer. He lifts his eyes and speaks to the Father, not only for those in the room, but for those who will believe later through their words. The circle of care widens beyond the visible table, beyond the first listeners, beyond the walls, beyond time itself. In a quiet sense, the prayer reaches into rooms like yours, not because you have earned a place in it by staying awake, not because you understand it perfectly, but because love travels farther than the first evening in which it is spoken. You are safe. The table is quiet. The basin is still. The vine rests in the dark. The prayer continues beyond what you can hold. And now the story enters a garden. We will move through this part with reverence and softness, because it holds sorrow. We do not turn away from it, but we do not sharpen it unnecessarily for the night. We let the garden be dark, olive trees standing still, leaves silvered faintly, the air cooler than the room they have left. Jesus knows what is coming. Those who arrive with lanterns and weapons come into the garden. But even here, he is not lost. He steps forward. The disciples are confused. Peter acts too quickly. Jesus turns even that moment away from further harm. The path continues. There are questions, trials, denials, a courtyard fire, the pain of fear, and the rooster's cry that marks a truth Peter did not want to meet. But do not let this wake you harshly. Hear it instead as the story's honesty about human weakness. Peter loves Jesus, and still he denies him. A person can be sincere and afraid. Art can mean devotion and still fail under pressure. The story knows this, and later, the story will return to Peter, not with the last word of failure, but with breakfast by the sea. So even here, the ending is not closed. For now, let the courtyard fire burn low in the distance. Let the night move. Let the tears be held. Jesus stands before power and speaks of a kingdom not rooted in the violence and fear by which ordinary kingdoms defend themselves. He bears witness to truth. He is misunderstood, mocked, handed over, lifted up. This is the heaviest part of the gospel, and for a sleep story, we carry it like a covered lamp. We acknowledge it without dwelling on pain. We remember that love goes to the end. We remember that the shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. We remember that the grain of wheat falls into the earth. We remember that what looks like defeat is not the final shape of the story. Near the cross, a few remain. His mother, the beloved disciple, women whose love has not fled. Jesus sees them and creates care even from the place of suffering. Behold your Son, behold your mother. Even at the edge of death, he is making a home for the grieving. Then it is finished, not destroyed, finished. The body is taken down with tenderness. Joseph, who had been quiet in fear, comes forward. Nicodemus, the night visitor from earlier, comes too, bringing spices. Remember him, the man who once came by night now appears in the solemn daylight of loss. His questions have become action. His caution has become care. They wrap the body in linen with fragrant spices. Nearby there is a garden, and in the garden, a new tomb. A garden at the beginning of the ending. A garden at the edge of grief. A garden holding what no one yet understands. Let the image become very still. Linen, myrrh, aloe, stone. Evening approaching, the world holding its breath. You are safe. You do not have to stay awake at the tomb. The garden can keep watch. The stone can rest where it is. The spices can release their fragrance in the dark. And the story, though it seems silent, is not over. Early on the first day of the week, while it is still dark, Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb. While it is still dark, that is important. Resurrection begins before full daylight. Hope begins while the sky still holds shadow. Mary comes carrying grief, expecting a body, expecting the old sorrow to remain where it was placed. But the stone has been moved. She runs to tell the others. They run. They see linen cloths lying there. They do not yet understand fully. Then they go back. Mary remains outside, weeping. Again, the story gives time to tears. She bends to look into the tomb and sees messengers in white. They ask why she weeps. She answers from the center of her loss. Then she turns and sees Jesus standing there, but she does not recognize him. This is one of the gentlest mysteries in the whole story. The one she seeks is near, and she thinks he is the gardener. Perhaps that mistake is not only a mistake. Perhaps it carries a quiet truth. In the garden, at the beginning of new creation, the risen one is mistaken for the keeper of the garden. He asks why she is weeping. Whom are you seeking? The first question returns in another form. What are you seeking? Whom are you seeking? She asks for the body. Then he says her name, Mary, and everything changes, not through a long explanation, not through proof, piled upon proof, through being known by name. Let that settle very softly. Your name, too, is not lost in the dark. The dawn does not need to be bright before you are known. Mary turns toward him. Grief opens into recognition. The garden is no longer only a place of burial. It is a place of calling. Jesus sends her to tell the others. She becomes a witness, carrying the first morning word back to those who are hidden away. I have seen the Lord. The day moves toward evening. The disciples are behind locked doors. Afraid, Jesus comes and stands among them with peace. Peace be with you. He shows them enough to know him. But the first word is peace. Not shame, not why did you run, not why were you afraid. Peace. Again he says it. Peace be with you. Breathe this in. A locked room. Afraid hearts. The risen presence. Peace. The doors that are locked do not keep him out. That is another soft reveal. Your guarded places are not too closed for peace to enter. Thomas is not there, and later he struggles to receive what the others have seen. He needs more than their words. The story does not erase him for that. A week later, Jesus comes again through closed doors, again with peace. He meets Thomas in the place of his need. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Thomas answers with worship. Some faith comes quickly. Some comes after a week of ache. Some comes through another person's testimony. Some needs a second arrival in the same locked room. The story has room for all of it. You are safe. Your questions do not need to be solved before sleep. Your locked doors do not need to be opened by force tonight. Peace can stand quietly in the room, even before you know how it entered. After these things, the story returns to water, as if it knows the soul needs the sea after the locked room. Some disciples are by the Sea of Tiberias. Peter says he is going fishing. The others go with him. They fish through the night and catch nothing. There it is again, the long labor, the empty net, the night spent trying. Morning comes, and Jesus stands on the shore, though they do not yet know it is him. He calls to them and tells them to cast the net on the other side. They do, and the net fills. The beloved disciple recognizes him. It is the Lord. Peter moves toward shore with urgency, but the scene remains deeply calm. There is a charcoal fire waiting with fish and bread. Breakfast has been prepared. After resurrection, after grief, after failure, after locked doors and empty nets, there is breakfast by the sea. Let this be one of the final resting places of the story. A grey morning, water moving softly, a small fire, bread warming, fish cooking. Tired men coming in from a fruitless night to find that someone has already prepared what they need. Come and have breakfast, so simple, so bodily, so kind. The risen Christ does not only give speeches, he feeds his friends. Peter, who denied him beside a charcoal fire, now sits near another charcoal fire. The old wound is present, but it is not the end. Jesus asks him about love, not once only, but again and again, gently reopening the place where denial had struck 3 times. Do you love me? Yes. Feed my sheep. The future given to Peter is not built on pretending he never failed. It is built on love restored, trust renewed, care entrusted again. This is a mercy many tired hearts need. Failure is not always the final name of a life. Love can ask again. Love can restore slowly. Love can place a task back into hands that once trembled. But tonight, you do not need to take up the task. Tonight, you can simply sit by the fire. You can receive breakfast. You can hear the waves. You can let the question of love be answered, not with strain, but with quiet presence. The story ends not by closing every mystery, but by leaving space. There were many other things, the writer says in his own way, more than could be held in one book. The world itself could not easily contain all the stories if every act were written down. That is a beautiful way to end a sleep story, not with a sealed box. With spaciousness, there is more mercy than the page can hold, more light than the darkness can overcome, more bread than the crowd expected, more water than the well could explain, more peace than the locked room could prevent, more life than the tomb could keep, and more rest than your tired mind has to understand tonight. Before we begin to drift away from the roads, the wells, the boats, the rooms, the gardens, and the shore, let the story widen once more, not into more tension, but into a slower remembering of the gentle places we have passed, as if we are walking back through them after sunset with a small lamp in our hands. The Gospel of John is full of movement, but it is also full of pauses. A man pauses at a river. 2 disciples pause in the afternoon where Jesus is staying. A mother pauses when the wine runs low. A teacher pauses under cover of night. A weary traveler pauses by a well. A sick man pauses beside water he cannot reach. A crowd pauses on the grass before bread is given. A frightened group pauses in a boat while wind moves across the lake. A woman pauses in the dust while stones fall from human hands. A blind man pauses at a pool and washes clay from his eyes. A shepherd pauses at the gate. A grieving sister pauses on the road before a question too large for grief. A friend pauses at a table while fragrance fills the house. A teacher pauses with a towel around his waist. A woman pauses in a garden while her name is spoken. And tired disciples pause beside a charcoal fire while breakfast waits. These pauses are not empty places in the story. They are small rooms of mercy. They are places where the soul catches up with what the mind cannot yet understand. And perhaps tonight, your own pause can be like that. Not wasted, not meaningless, not a failure to move quickly enough. A pause can be holy when it gives the heart room to breathe. So let this moment be a pause. No pressure to sleep quickly, no pressure to be perfectly peaceful, no pressure to understand the whole shape of your life. Only this quiet return to the softer images, one by one, until they become less like a story you are listening to, and more like a place where your body can finally loosen its hold. Return first to the beginning, where the light is not loud. Many lights in the world ask something from you. Screens ask your attention. Lamps ask you to keep working. Streetlights ask you to keep moving. Morning light asks you to begin again. But the light in this old opening is different. It asks for nothing. It simply is. It comes as life. It shines because shining is its nature. Let that light rest behind your closed eyes. Not bright, not demanding. A low golden glow, like a lamp in another room. Like dawn before the birds have begun. Like the memory of warmth on stone after sunset. The darkness around it is not dramatic. It is simply darkness, the kind that fills a room at night and makes the world quiet enough for sleep. And the light remains within it, steady and calm. You do not need to push away darkness tonight. You do not need to win against every thought. You can let the light remain. That is enough. Now return to the river, where John stands as a witness. The river does not hurry because people are anxious. It has its own pace, given by gravity, rain, stone, and time. It moves whether anyone understands it or not. It carries reflections of sky and reed. It cools the ankles of those who step into it. It receives what is lowered into it and continues on. A witness stands there, and his peace comes partly from knowing he is not the center. There is rest in not needing to be the center. There is rest in not needing to be the source of every answer. There is rest in being allowed to point toward what is greater, then step back into the sound of water. Perhaps some of your weariness comes from trying to be the source for too many things. The source of calm, the source of plans, the source of solutions, the one who remembers, responds, repairs, anticipates, and carries. But tonight, you can be more like the witness by the river. You can let the greater light be greater. You can let the river move. You can stand or sit or lie down and not be responsible for holding the whole sky. Now return to that first question. What are you seeking in the daytime? Questions often ask us to answer. At night, a question can simply be held. It can become a small bowl in the hands of the heart. It does not need to be filled immediately. It can rest open. What are you seeking? Maybe you are seeking sleep. Maybe you are seeking comfort. Maybe you are seeking forgiveness for something no one else knows is still heavy inside you. Maybe you are seeking a sense that tomorrow will not require more than you can give. Maybe you are seeking nothing more complicated than a quiet voice in the dark. Whatever it is, you do not need to name it perfectly. Jesus does not push the first disciples into a speech. He lets them come and see, so let the answer be movement. Not explanation. Come and see. Come slowly. Come gently. Come as you are. Now return to Cana, to the stone jars in the background. They are heavy jars, quiet jars, useful jars. They have no idea that anyone will remember them. They are not decorated for wonder. They do not stand in the center of the celebration. They are simply there, empty enough to receive, solid enough to hold. There is a kind of grace in being a vessel, not the wine, not the feast, not the song, just the vessel, filled to the brim, maybe. Tonight you do not need to become extraordinary. Maybe you only need to become available to quiet filling. The servants move back and forth with water. This part takes time. A miracle, in this scene, includes the ordinary labor of filling. No one in the main room is applauding. No one is praising the servants for each heavy step. Yet the hidden work matters. So much of life is hidden work. Breathing through a difficult hour, choosing not to answer harshly, washing one more dish, sending one more message, getting through one more day, filling the jar, again and again, without knowing when water will become wine. Let that hidden work be honored, then released. You do not have to keep working now. The jars are full. The feast can continue without your vigilance. Now return to Nicodemus, walking through Jerusalem by night. Imagine the city after the loudest hours have faded. The stones still hold warmth from the day. A few lamps burn in upper rooms. Voices are lower. The sky is deep. A man with careful thoughts moves through narrow ways, carrying a question he cannot ask in public. Night can make honest people of us. It can remove the audience. It can reveal the questions underneath the roles we play. Nicodemus is not mocked for coming by night. He is met there. That is comforting, even if the only honest space you have is late. After everything else has gone quiet, the story says that night questions can still be met. The wind blows where it wills. Let the wind move along the rooftops now. You hear it, but you do not command it. You feel it, but you do not own it. You receive its coolness, and that is enough. Spiritual life is not always grasped by tightening the mind. Sometimes it is received the way a tired face receives wind. Softly, without argument, without ownership, now return to the well in Samaria. The noon light is bright, but in memory it can become gentle. Softened by distance, the woman comes with her jar. She has made this walk many times. The body knows repeated paths. The mind can travel them while carrying old thoughts. Dust rises around the feet. The well waits in the same place. The rope lowers in the same way. But this day is different because someone is sitting there. Someone tired, someone thirsty, someone willing to speak. Give me a drink. The request dignifies her before the revelation changes her. He receives from her before offering to her. There is mutual presence before transformation. This is tender. Some people are approached only as problems to fix or stories to discuss. But here, the woman is addressed as someone who can give. Someone whose presence matters in the conversation. If you knew the gift, the phrase lingers. If you knew the gift, so much of rest begins there. With a gift, we do not yet know how to receive. Not a wage, not a prize. A gift, living water, a spring within. Let the well become cool and dark below the stone. Let the water deep below reflect a small circle of sky. Let the jar rest on its side, no longer the most important thing. Let the woman walk toward town lighter than when she came. Now return to the man beside the pool. 38 years is too long for any person to become merely a symbol. So hear him as a person, not a lesson. A person with mornings, afternoons, aches, habits, disappointments, memories of younger years, and the strange dullness that can settle over hope when help never arrives in time. Jesus asks if he wants to be made well, not because Jesus lacks knowledge, but because the question gives the man back a voice. Long waiting can steal a person's voice. Repeated disappointment can make the future feel like a room with no door. But the question opens something. Do you want to be made well? And when the man speaks, even his explanation is heard. He has no one. He cannot reach the water first. The system of hope around him has become another place of exclusion. Then the word comes, rise, take up your mat, walk, for tonight. You do not need to rise outwardly, but perhaps some small inner place can hear a gentler version. You may loosen, you may breathe, you may stop lying beneath the whole weight of old disappointment for just one night. You may let the mat be only a mat. You are safe. Now return to the hillside where the crowd sits in grass. The image is spacious enough to rest inside. Grass under palms, light on water. People sitting because Jesus told them to sit. That alone is beautiful. Before they are fed, they are invited to sit down. Sit down. Stop standing in hunger. Stop scanning the horizon for your own supply. Sit down on the grass. The bread will move through hands. The fish will be shared. The fragments will be gathered. A boy's small lunch becomes part of a large mercy. He may not have known, when he brought it, that it would matter. The disciples may not have known, when they noticed it, that smallness was not the problem. The crowd may not have known, as they sat down, that enough was already near. So much anxiety comes from measuring small things too early. Small energy, small faith, small progress, small courage, small offering. But in the story, smallness placed in the hands of Jesus does not remain merely small. It becomes shareable. It becomes enough for the moment, and what remains is not thrown away. Let nothing be wasted. Let that phrase move slowly through the room. Let nothing be wasted. Not the day, not the tiredness, not the tears, not the unfinished prayers, not the fragments of attention that brought you here. Gather them gently, place them in baskets. The hillside can grow quiet. Now return to the sea at night. The disciples are rowing. Their arms are tired. The wind is against them. The water has texture in the dark. Moving, lifting, falling, striking the boat with sounds that make the body alert. Then presence approaches over the very thing they fear. It is I. Do not be afraid. The words are enough to begin calming. The scene, not because the sea instantly becomes an idea, but because the one who speaks is near. They receive him into the boat. Some nights, that is all prayer can be. Receive him into the boat, not understand the storm, not explain the waves, not shame yourself for being afraid. Simply make room for presence, and the shore comes, maybe not with the drama of escape, but with the quiet surprise of arrival. The boat reaches the place it was going. Now return to the woman in the dust. We will be very gentle here. The crowd has formed, and the air is tense. But Jesus lowers the pace by lowering himself. He writes on the ground. He refuses to let other people's urgency decide the rhythm of mercy. That is a lesson for the nervous system. Not every urgent voice deserves your immediate surrender. Not every accusation deserves your whole body tightening around it. Sometimes mercy bends down and writes in dust until the violence in the room has to confront itself. The stones fall from hands. Imagine the sound softly, not sharply, a stone placed down. A sandal turning away, another stone released, another accuser leaving. The oldest first, then the others. The space opens. A woman who had been made into a public object becomes again a person addressed with dignity. Where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one. Neither do I condemn you. Mercy speaks before the future is commanded. There is a path forward. But first there is the lifting of condemnation. If your mind has gathered stones against you, let them fall now. Not with noise, with relief. You do not need to punish yourself into holiness tonight. You can receive mercy and sleep. Now return to the man born blind. The world asks who sinned. Jesus speaks of God's work being displayed. Then there is clay, touch, instruction, washing, sight. The pool of Siloam receives a man who has never seen the way others see. He lowers himself to the water. He washes. Clay loosens. Darkness changes. Maybe sight arrives first as brightness, then motion, then color, then faces. The world becomes overwhelming, but wondrous. And yet the people around him turn wonder into interrogation. They ask him to repeat what happened. They doubt his identity. They summon his parents. They press him again. But his testimony remains beautifully simple. One thing I know. I was blind. Now I see. For sleep. Let that simplicity soothe you. You do not need to win every argument about your life. You do not need to make every person understand what God has done quietly in you. One thing I know can be enough. A small certainty can rest in the palm of the heart. And when he is cast out, Jesus finds him again. The story returns to safety, found after exclusion, seen after being questioned, held after being dismissed, now returned to the shepherd. This image can carry you a long way into sleep. A hillside in late afternoon, the air cooling, the flock slowly gathering. Some sheep are near, some are farther off. Some are restless, some are already lowering themselves into the grass. The shepherd knows them, not as a list, but as living creatures entrusted to his care. He calls them by name. A name is different from a number. A name means known particularity. A name means the shepherd can distinguish one small life from another in the fading light. He goes before them. They follow because the voice is familiar, not because they understand every danger, not because they are strong, because they know the voice. Let your listening become simple like that. Not figuring out everything, just recognizing gentleness, following peace, letting the shepherd remain at the gate. No one will snatch them from my hand. No one. Let the word, no one be restful, not forceful. No one stronger than the hand. No one more watchful than the shepherd. no one more final than the love that holds. Now return to Bethany. Before the tomb, there is a home. Before the miracle, there is friendship. Before Lazarus comes out, Jesus has sat at tables with this family, received their welcome, heard their voices. That is part of why the grief matters. The story is not abstract, it is personal. The one who is sick is loved. The sisters send word not by describing symptoms first, but relationship. The one you love is sick. Love is the first fact. When Jesus arrives, Martha meets him with sorrow and faith tangled together. Mary meets him with tears. Neither response is rejected. Different hearts grieve differently. One comes with words, one comes falling at his feet. Both are met. Jesus weeps. The tears of Jesus are like a small well inside the gospel. They gather every permission tired people need to stop pretending pain is not pain. He weeps before he calls Lazarus, meaning love does not require emotional distance in order to be strong. The stone is moved. The name is called. The dead man comes out. And then comes a communal tenderness. Unbind him. Let him go. Others participate in the freedom. They loosen what still wraps the living man. Sometimes healing is both divine word and human hands. A voice calls life. Friends loosen cloth. Do not rush that. Let the cloth fall slowly, strip by strip, binding by binding. The air reaches skin. The family breathes. Now return to the dinner where fragrance fills the house. After grief, a meal. After the tomb, a table. After the call to life, the smell of perfume. Mary's act is quiet and extravagant. She does not explain it. Love sometimes knows before language does. The perfume fills the house. And for a while, everyone is breathing the same fragrance, whether they understand it or not. This is how some moments of devotion work. They change the atmosphere. Not by argument, by fragrance, by presence, by pouring out what has been guarded. If there is anything in you that has been guarded too tightly, you do not have to pour it all out tonight. But you can let the image tell you that love is not always efficient. Rest is not always efficient either. Sleep itself may look unproductive to a restless world, but it is holy to the body. Let the house be filled. Let the perfume linger in the wooden beams. Let the table remain. Now return to the upper room, where water is poured again. The gospel began with water at a river, then water in jars, then water at a well, then water near a pool, then water under a boat, then tears, then washing. Water keeps returning because it knows how to move where speech cannot. In the upper room, water becomes service. Jesus washes feet. The dust of the road meets the humility of love. Imagine your own day as dust, not sin only, not failure only, simply the residue of walking through the world. Dust from conversations, dust from small irritations, dust from screens, dust from expectations, dust from the old roads of memory. The basin is ready. You do not have to scrub yourself clean with anxious thoughts. Let love wash what the day left behind. Let the towel dry what has been made tender. When Peter resists, Jesus stays patient. Receiving is part of belonging. Sometimes the hardest words are not commands to do more, but invitations to allow care. Allow care. Allow rest, allow peace, allow the towel and the basin. Now return to the words of comfort spoken after supper. Do not let your heart be troubled. The heart may already be troubled when it hears this. That is why the sentence matters. It comes not to a calm room, but to a room where sorrow is approaching. It is spoken before confusion has ended. So if your heart is troubled tonight, you have not disqualified yourself from the promise. The promise is for troubled hearts. There is room. There is a place prepared. There is a peace not made by circumstances. There is a vine that gives life to branches that remain. Remain. This word is perhaps one of the sleepiest words in the gospel when heard gently. Remain. Do not perform. Do not produce. Do not prove. Remain. A branch at night does not try to become fruitful, by force. It stays connected in the dark. Sap moves quietly. Growth happens invisibly. Fruit will come in season, not by panic, but by life. So remain for this breath. Remain for the next. Remain in love without needing to feel it dramatically. Remain like a branch under stars. Now return to the prayer. Jesus prays before the garden. His words move outward in circles. He prays for those with him. He prays for those who will come later. The prayer crosses distance and time. It gathers people not yet born into a mercy already spoken. That means you do not have to create belonging out of nothing tonight. You can receive a belonging older than your awareness of it. You can rest inside a prayer you did not initiate, a prayer that began before you knew you needed one. Let that be enough. Now return to the garden, but only softly. Olive trees, cool air, lanterns in the distance, leaves silver in the dark. The sorrow here is real, but it is not chaos. Jesus steps forward. Even when others come to take him, he is not less himself. The shepherd is still the shepherd. The one who laid down his life said earlier that no one takes it from him. He gives it. Peter's denial waits nearby like a shadow, but even that shadow will not be final. Remember the breakfast fire, already waiting beyond the sorrow, though Peter cannot see it yet. This is one of the mercies of hearing the whole story at night. We can hold sorrow with the memory of restoration. The courtyard is not the last fire. There will be another fire. There will be bread. There will be a question of love. There will be a way forward. Now return to the garden tomb. The body is wrapped with spices by hands that have become brave enough to care. Nicodemus comes out of night into daylight. Joseph offers a tomb. Love becomes practical. It carries, wraps, prepares, honors. Sometimes faith is not loud. Sometimes it is linen. Sometimes it is spice. Sometimes it is asking for permission to do the tender thing when the day has gone terribly dark. The garden receives the silence. The stone is placed. The Sabbath comes. No one in the story can hurry the morning. This too is restful. Though sorrowful, there are holy Saturdays when nothing can be done but waiting. No fixing, no explaining, only waiting while the unseen work belongs to God. If there is a part of your life that feels like Saturday, you can stop trying to force Sunday before its hour. The garden knows how to wait. The stone knows how to be still. The spices know how to release fragrance slowly in the dark. Now return to Mary at dawn, while it is still dark. She comes early because love often rises before hope does. She does not come expecting triumph. She comes because love has nowhere else to go, and the story meets her there. At first, she misunderstands. She sees and does not recognize. She hears questions and answers from grief. Then her name is spoken. Mary. A name can awaken recognition when explanation cannot. In that single word, the garden changes. The world changes. Her grief is not erased as if it never existed, but it is transformed by presence. Let your own name be held quietly in that kind of mercy. You do not have to hear it aloud. You do not have to imagine it perfectly. Just let the possibility rest near you, that you are known personally in the dim hour before full morning. Now return to the locked room. The disciples have reason to be afraid. The doors are shut. The air is close. They have heard confusing reports. They have memories of failure. They do not know what comes next. Then Jesus stands among them. Peace be with you. He does not wait outside until the door is opened correctly. He does not demand that fear leave before peace arrives. Peace arrives first. Peace stands in the middle of the room. Peace speaks. Peace is given before the disciples have become brave. This is a strong comfort for anxious nights. You do not have to become fearless before receiving peace. Peace can come into a fearful room. Peace can stand among locked doors. Peace can breathe where you thought only worry had access. Thomas needs time. A week passes. Jesus comes again. Peace again. Not impatience. Peace. The repetition is itself soothing. Peace be with you. A week later, peace be with you again and again. until the room learns the sound. Now return finally to the shore, the sea after night fishing, empty nets. A figure on the beach, a voice across water. Children, have you any fish? No. Cast the net on the other side. They do. And abundance comes after emptiness. Then recognition, then the slow approach to land. A fire is already burning. This may be the gentlest ending place of all. Not a throne room, not a court, not a final argument won. A beach, a small charcoal fire, bread, fish, morning light, wet nets, tired hands, friends eating, the risen Jesus cooking breakfast. Come and have breakfast after everything. An invitation to eat, after the cross, after the tomb, after the locked room, after the empty night. There is still this ordinary kindness. Come and have breakfast. Let your soul sit there. Let the fire warm your hands. Let the waves repeat themselves. Let Peter's restoration happen gently in the background, without needing to make your mind sharper. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Follow me. Love is not only emotion here. It becomes care, but care will come later. Morning tasks will come later. For now, the fire is enough. The bread is enough. The presence is enough. And the story itself says there is more than could be written. That means you are allowed not to contain it all. You are allowed to let the unwritten remain unwritten. You are allowed to let mystery be larger than your waking mind. You are allowed to fall asleep before the final page, because the mercy is not dependent on your attention. Now the roads begin to soften. The well becomes a circle of shadow. The hillside becomes green quiet. The boat rests at shore. The stones lie harmless in dust. The sheepfold settles. The table grows still. The basin is emptied. The vine remains in the dark. The garden breathes toward dawn. The locked room fills with peace. The breakfast fire lowers into embers. And now we begin to drift away from the roads, the wells, the boats, the rooms, the gardens, and the shore. We return to the place where you are resting. The room is simple again. Your breath is here. Your body is here. The night is here. The story has carried many images to you, and you do not need to keep them all. Let them pass softly, one by one, like lamps being lowered along a quiet road. The first light in the darkness, the river and the witness, the invitation to come and see. The water jars filled to the brim, the night wind over Nicodemus, the deep well at noon, the mat carried by the healed man, the hillside grass and baskets of bread, the boat reaching shore, the stones set down in dust, the blind man washing his eyes, the shepherd at the gate, the tomb at Bethany, and the voice calling life, the fragrance filling the house, the basin and towel, the vine in the dark, the garden holding sorrow, the name spoken at dawn, the peace in the locked room, the breakfast fire by the sea. Let them go now, not because they are gone, because they have done what they needed to do. They have made a soft path through the night. And you can rest. There is no test at the end of this story, no question you must answer before sleeping, no conclusion you must hold tightly. Only the gentle sense that you have been walking for a while beside old waters, under old stars, with a presence that does not hurry you. If your thoughts return, let them return kindly. If your body shifts, let it shift gently. If you are still awake, you are not doing anything wrong. Rest can begin before sleep arrives. Peace can enter before the mind is empty. The light can shine before morning. Let your breathing become the quietest part of the story. In and out again and again, like waves moving toward the shore where breakfast waits, like water settling in a stone jar, like wind moving where it will, like sheep safe in the fold, like a branch remaining in the vine. You are allowed to stop now. You are allowed to be held. You are allowed to receive the night without solving the day. Somewhere in the old story, a lamp is still burning. Somewhere, a well is still cool. Somewhere, bread is still being gathered, so nothing is lost. Somewhere, a garden is still turning toward dawn. And here, in this quiet room, your breath continues softly. The story does not need to close. It can remain open, like a door left slightly ajar, with warm light beyond it. You do not need to walk through that door tonight. You can simply rest near it, safe, seen, held, and slowly, without effort, let the words become softer. Let the images become fewer. Let the spaces between them become wider. The river moves on, the wind moves on, the shepherd watches, the garden waits. The shore grows quiet, and you can sleep, or simply rest. Both are welcome here. Both are enough. The light shines gently in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. Stay there as long as you need. No hurry, no demand. Only peace, only breath, only the soft, unfinished mercy of the night.